Welcome to Chapter 4, Life, Words, and Work. We love it when students ask us great questions. And just like the student from Louisiana had an incredibly valid question, we also got a question from New Mexico. A young lady came up to us and said, "I believe in Jesus and I know I'm going to heaven when I die, but that means I can do whatever I want to now, right?" Well, the short answer to this question is, you have totally missed the good news.
And that was true for me. I completely missed it. I got saved when I was 5 years old, but throughout the years, I lost focus of what the gospel really is. I started to believe that it was just about rules and regulations and how I had to live up to a certain standard. Really, I didn't want anything to do with this. So I rebelled against the system, and I actually ran away from home with my boyfriend. And while I was away from home, I pursued the pleasures that I thought would bring me so much satisfaction. I pursued sex, drugs, and alcohol. But really, this only left me empty. And I found my heart longing for something more. I wanted something real. I hadn't found true satisfaction. So with this in mind, I came home to experience something that has forever changed my life, which I believe is the true gospel of love and grace. When I came home, my father embraced me and said something I will never forget. He said, "Esther, from the day you were born to the day you die, I will love you the same. And as pure as you were then, that is as pure as I see you now." Because it wasn't about do's and don'ts, but it was about embracing love and grace. And that is the true gospel of Jesus.
And that is the good news. Not theoretical good news, but real good news that happens to each of us. God's mercy and His grace. God has initiated a new kingdom in this world. We're part of His family now. We're a new creation, and we don't have to wait until heaven to experience His goodness.
Let's return to the backstory, the story that God has placed us into. It began with His very good creation. The curse is introduced, and then God begins a rescue plan with Israel that Jesus then fulfills so that one day we might experience the renewal of all things. And here's our place in the story. This is where God has placed us in His grand story, after the cross. So what is the role that evangelism plays in our lives now? We join God in His mission to renew the world.
Evangelism, or a better translation for us, good newsing, is not just about knocking on people's doors or standing on street corners preaching at people about God. It's so much better than you think. And there's 3 ways we're going to look at it.
The first type of evangelism is simple. It's just living God's way in God's world. And guess what? It produces life. You see, Christianity is not just about the truth. The truth leads to life. And living a life that honors God is in stark contrast to the vanity of the world that surrounds us.
The second form of evangelism has to do with St. Francis of Assisi, or how we said it in my hometown, San Francisco de Assisi. Well, it kinda has to do with him. St. Francis is cited for saying, "Preach the gospel, and if necessary, use words." There are 3 problems with this. Number 1, St. Francis never said this. Number 2, St. Francis never lived this way. He was part of a preaching order, and he would preach on a regular basis. And number 3, God disagrees. He has always cared about our life and our words. All of us who have been saved by this great news of salvation have a story to tell.
So we should preach the gospel, and since it's necessary, use words. But we need to remember 2 things. It's not an instant process, and it's God who actually saves them. But what we have to remember is that this is not instantaneous. It's a long process. For a person to go from an unbeliever to a believer, a Christian, there are lots of changes that have to take place. And ultimately, it's God who saves them in the end. but we get to use our words and our life to help bring that person one step closer.
So evangelism happens in our life and our words, but there's one more category we want to add, and that is our work. In Genesis, God puts humanity on the earth for a purpose, and many scholars call this the cultural mandate. The cultural mandate is God's command to be fruitful, to multiply, to fill, and to subdue the earth. And since God has redeemed us through Jesus, we're invited again to work alongside of Him and be a blessing to all the nations. This means music and business and engineering and technology and cosmetology and science and literature. There are so many ways to join God in His world. So really, the final form of evangelism is just to go and make stuff, to redeem what has been broken and to be excellent, so that others who see us and who live a life of vanity can be shown a life of meaning and purpose. So here's our final thought. Eternal beings like us can never be satisfied with a temporary existence apart from God. But because of God, we have a renewed mission and we can join Him in that now and into eternity. Let's go and share the good news. Go celebrate something beautiful. Go and create. Go and find an evil you can stop. And go and fix something that is broken. And as you go with the confidence that Jesus is going with you.